These are 10 haunted, abandoned psychiatric hospitals. Number 10 is Fool's Tower. Also known as Notoriously Fool's Tower in Vienna, Austria, is the oldest psychiatric hospital in Europe. Though its doors have been long shut to patients and parts of it converted into a museum, the abandoned sections of this building are said to be stalked by horrors that are beyond imagination. Built in 1784, Notoriously was constructed like a fortress in order to keep patients away from the public at a time when mental health was not understood. Specimen jars and gruesome surgical tools can still be found there, with many visitors encountering strange white apparitions attached to these medical relics. Whether these apparitions are the ghosts of patients or the medical staff who worked there, no one can be sure. What is certain is that something unknown to modern science continues to claim the Notoriously for itself. Number 9 is Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Built in 1910, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium is as infamous now as it was when it was in operation. When it was first constructed, this psychiatric hospital was envisioned as a tuberculosis hospital. It's estimated that over 60,000 patients died within its walls, many of it a result of mistreatment. When the building was converted into a sanatorium, there were rumors of apparitions being seen in the hallways and cells. Now defunct, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium stands empty as a reminder of just how cruel we can be to each other. The cruelty was taken to its limits, where bizarre experiments were rumored to have been carried out on patients. The result? A residual memory of the pain stored within its walls, waiting to unleash its presence on those who are careless enough to cross the sanatorium's threshold. Number 8 is Danvers State Hospital. From the moment Danvers State Hospital opened its doors in 1878, it earned a terrifying reputation. The hospital, located in Danvers, Massachusetts, is comprised of a number of buildings, all of which are connected by a series of sinister underground tunnels. Though it was initially designed to hold just 500 patients, by the early 1900s, over 2,000 people were treated there. Among those treatments were thousands of horrific lobotomies and electric shock therapy sessions. Even before it closed, the asylum was rumored to be in the grips of a malevolent supernatural force. Many believe this is because of what took place on the land previously. You see, the town of Danvers used to have another name. That name was Salem, the very place where the infamous Salem witch trials took place. Number 7 is the Beechworth Asylum. This decommissioned hospital can be found in the town of Victoria, Australia. Built in 1867, patients were treated within its walls as recently as 1995, when it was closed down permanently. Though it at first appears to be a more serene place than any other asylums on this list, patients were held against their will. Tall red brick walls were used to stop anyone from escaping. The walls were known as ha-ha walls because those running the asylum dug a trench at the bottom of them. This created the illusion that the walls could be climbed easily, further torturing patients. Ever since the asylum was closed down, it's been the scene of several horrifying brushes with the supernatural. The investigators who have explored Beechworth claim to have seen the same eerie shape of an elderly man walking the empty halls, looking to do harm to the living. Number 6 is the Trans-Allegheny Asylum. The Trans-Allegheny Asylum in West Virginia was built to house 250 people all the way back in 1864. But by 1954, its patients numbered well over 2,000. Horrific overcrowding, compounded by poor sanitation, resulted in patients living in unbearable conditions. The asylum eventually became home to the notorious West Virginia Lobotomy Project. As recently as the 1980s, Trans-Allegheny Asylum patients were brutally locked in cages if they did not behave as their keepers wished, resulting in the closure of the asylum in 1994. Numerous paranormal investigators have explored the building, encountering deranged apparitions clinicians searching for human victims, including one of the most famous criminals of all time, Charles Manson. He stayed at the asylum previously, and since his passing, what's left of him has tried to scare off many a visitor. Number 5 is the Gonjiam Psychiatric Hospital. Widely regarded as a highly active paranormal location in South Korea, the history of the Gonjiam Psychiatric Hospital is the stuff of legend and nightmares. Those who have had dealings with the now vacant hospital claim that it was stained by death. During the building's operation, patients died of unknown causes, resulting in the facility's closure. One theory behind those deaths is that the owner of the hospital had a twisted practice of locking patients up in horrible conditions until they breathed their last. Since then, people have heard disembodied screams echoing through the empty halls of the Gonjiam, along with footsteps and unseen grasping hands, pulling people into the shadowy corners of the very places where many of the mistreated patients allegedly died. Number 4 is the Lie Psychos. The Lie Psychos facility operated between 1926 and 1985. In that time, it was associated with human experimentation. Many of these experiments from just after the Second World War until its closure involved drugs. Some of those drugs are rumored to have been psychedelic in nature, pushing each patient's experience of the world to its limits. Those experiments involved a strange mixture of LSD, newly developed pharmaceuticals, and surgical manipulation of the brain through incisions. Concerned caregivers at the hospital came forward as whistleblowers, exposing the terrible conditions found inside the hospital's walls. Now the corridors and rooms are empty, but they are not quite vacant. Some believe that the psychedelic experimentation broke through a psychic barrier and brought something back into our world. Number 3 is the Rolling Hills Asylum. Rolling Hills Asylum, New York, was where the forgotten were kept. Those who had mental health problems or developmental issues were thrown inside with criminals and those with violent tendencies. After it opened its doors in 1827, it did not take long for the asylum to amass nearly 2,000 deaths within its grounds. Because those poor individuals had been abandoned or taken away from their families, they were not given a normal burial or cremation. Instead, many of their remains were scattered into unmarked mass graves, which surrounded the main asylum building. Those bodies are still there today, and investigators have found that they are less than silent. Tormented by the past and by those who disturb them while they sleep, the spirits do not appreciate visitors and manifest themselves as shadowy specters of death to ward off the curious. Number 2 is the Whittingham Hospital. From its humble beginning in 1873, Whittingham Hospital treated patients for a century and became Britain's largest psychiatric hospital. Throughout its history, Whittingham was at the center of several tragic events and scandals. This included the violent mistreatment of both staff and patients. Since its closure, the hospital has become a hotbed of paranormal activity. One terrifying apparition that's often seen on the grounds of the now abandoned hospital is that of a ghostly woman. In her arms, she cradles a screaming baby. This figure is as tragic as it is frightening. Many single mothers would have been thrown into the asylum during the 1800s for simply having given birth out of wedlock. It appears that one of these poor souls now haunts the area, and really, who could blame her if she no longer looked upon human beings with affection? And number 1 is Clovis Avenue Sanatorium. Clovis Avenue Sanatorium in California was built in 1922 as Wolf Manor, only becoming a psychiatric hospital when the owner went bankrupt and had to sell it. Clovis Avenue was notorious for being overcrowded and for many of its patients dying. Because the building wasn't assigned as an asylum, there was no morgue. For this reason, patients who passed were thrown into the basement. It was converted into a haunted house attraction in 1997, but this seemed to provoke a genuine supernatural response. People reported being pulled to the ground by malevolent apparitions. Later, the building was abandoned. However, local police recorded 911 calls coming from inside the old facility after this. A curious thing, since there was no phone line connected to the house. It was abandoned by people, but not its former patients. Number 10 is Mandy. Made in Germany between 1910 and 1920, Mandy is an antique doll that resembles a baby with old clothing, a torn body, and a cracked head. Now, she would be just another creepy looking children's toy if she didn't throw temper tantrums all by herself. After her owner started experiencing strange occurrences, such as the sound of a baby crying coming from an empty basement, Mandy was given to the Quesnel Museum in Quesnel, British Columbia, Canada. Soon after receiving her in 1991, the museum's staff began experiencing strange events on their own. They found that when Mandy was left overnight in a room, they would find the room a mess the next day, with papers and other loose items strewn about. She was apparently responsible for stealing staff lunches and hiding them and other mischievous things, and could never be left alone with another doll or she'd tear it apart. Just one of many reasons you wouldn't want to be alone with Mandy. Number 9 is Okiku. Almost 100 years ago in 1918, 17-year-old Ikichi Suzuki was walking along Tanuki Koji, a famous shopping street in Sapporo, Japan, when he spotted the perfect souvenir gift for his 2-year-old sister, Okiku. That gift was a 40-centimeter tall kimono-wearing Japanese doll with short cropped hair that resembled the young girl. Okiku loved the doll, playing with it every day, and even took it with her everywhere she went. But sadly, she didn't have long to play with it and passed away due to illness less than a year later. The Suzuki family prayed to the doll in an effort to remember Okiku, even giving the doll the girl's name. However, it wasn't long before they realized something was odd. Over time, the short black hair the figure originally had grown all the way to the doll's knees. It was revealed that, though not malicious, the spirit of the young girl somehow possessed the doll, and still does today. The ever-growing hair has even been tested and confirmed by scientists to be real human hair. Number 8 is The Hands Resist Him. You'd think this doll would be rather difficult to play with, considering it's seemingly just a painting of one. However, according to witness accounts and legends surrounding it, that 2D doll could be playing with you. Painted in 1972 by artist Bill Stoneham, The Hands Resist Him shows two figures standing in front of a glass door, a young boy and an almost life-size doll. Behind them, on the other side of the glass, several hands appear to be waving, knocking or tapping on the pane. Though Stoneham explained that this was based on a more positive memory, with the glass being the barrier between waking and dreaming, those who have owned it have another theory. Some owners have seen the figures in different positions, even finding the painting empty while they felt a presence in the room watching them. There have even been claims that the doll often holds a gun and forces the boy from the painting so he can scare the living. Number 7 is Joliet. Currently owned by a woman simply known as Anna G, this sinister doll is not just haunted, but cursed. Originally given as a baby gift to Anna's great-grandmother by a family friend, Joliet contains the souls of not one, but 4 infant boys. As the story goes, each female in the family line gave birth to 2 children, a boy and a girl, but the boy dies after only 3 days, his soul absorbed by the evil doll. At night, the doll cries out as if it's a baby itself, emulating all of the souls within it and terrifying those who see it. Truly a horrible curse on the family, this doll has been passed down from mother to daughter for 4 generations with no end in sight. When asked why they don't simply rid themselves of Joliet, their reasoning is truly sad. Each mother appears certain that if anything bad should happen to the 100-year-old doll, their dead son's soul will be damaged as well. Thus, this twisted doll will continue to take young lives in infamy forever. Number 6 is the zombie voodoo doll. Officially known as the Galveston, Texas zombie doll, this haunted voodoo doll has been known to actually physically attack its owners. In October of 2004, an unidentified woman from Galveston, Texas, purchased this grotesque doll from its previous owner in New Orleans. The handcrafted figure arrived in a metal box which was referred to as a coffin. Thinking nothing of the confinement, the woman took it out and put it on display, only to have the zombie doll attack her at night. After sealing it back in the box, the ghost in the doll continued to attack her in her nightmares, so she tried to destroy it, only to find that it wouldn't burn, and cutting into it literally broke her scissors. Finally, after selling the doll on eBay, she was alarmed when the buyer informed her the shipping box was empty. She found the doll the next day covered in dirt laying on her front porch. Number 5 is Sarita. While some dolls appear evil simply by their expressions and age, others can apparently look like a cute, charming children's toy, while actually possessing the malicious spirit of something far less adorable. Such is the case of Sarita, a blue-eyed, blonde-haired doll that was given to Yvonne Nunez of El Callao, Peru, and her family by Yvonne's late niece in 2010. While the doll seems cute and harmless, it's earned itself the title of the Peruvian Annabelle by those who have witnessed the paranormal events surrounding it. The entire family has seen strange lights and heard bizarre noises in the home ever since Sarita arrived, and they often find the doll in different places from where they left her. The toy is most certainly malicious, as Yvonne has found scratches on her children after they've slept in the same room Sarita was in. The children also claim that the doll watches them sleep and will even chant or knock on walls to wake them on occasion. Number 4 is Lida. Kerry Warren was in his early 20s when he reluctantly returned to his hometown of Wagga Wagga in New South Wales, Australia in the early 1970s. Collecting his courage, Warren visited the abandoned haunted house that he grew up near, but instead of ghosts, he found something else. Lida. This haunted, sinister-looking marionette doll is an Eastern European puppet and has been dated by a museum to be around 250 years old and is said to contain the spirit of a 6-year-old boy who drowned in the late 1700s. Multiple people have reported breaking down into crying hysterics or screamed uncontrollably when Lida was close by, even when he's in another room. Once, while on a paranormal show, Lida moved all by himself, scaring viewers and sending a cameraman running out of the room. Warren is supernaturally unable to part with the doll and unfortunately still owns it today. Number 3 is Harold. In 2004, author Anthony Quinata was searching for inspiration for a new book that he was writing when he came across an ad online for Harold, a creepy doll from the 1930s whose owner claimed it was haunted. After purchasing the toy, Anthony was alarmed to find that Harold wasn't just haunted, he was cursed and possessed by a powerful demon. The doll began making people who saw it sick, even through the internet, as people who simply laid eyes on some of the photos Anthony posted reported having severe headaches or becoming incredibly dizzy and confused. Some even woke up after having nightmares only to feel Harold's presence in their room watching them. Psychics were ultimately called in and claimed multiple spirits were attached to the doll, one of them being a man named Harold, from whom the toy got its name. Another, a woman who was mentally unstable, and a demon who announced he'd danced with the devil. Number 2 is Robert the Doll. Given to painter and author Robert Eugene Jean Otto in 1906 when he was only 6 years old, this terrifying toy already looks creepy enough, but apparently sounds even creepier. That's right, according to Jean's parents, the young boy would often be heard whispering and even giggling with someone, when the only ones in the room were him and the doll, Robert. According to Gene's parents, the young boy would often be heard whispering and giggling with someone, when the only ones in the room were him and the doll, Robert. Even after they locked the toy in the attic, things in the house would be broken, only to have a trembling Gene claim Robert did it. When the family was at church or otherwise not home, neighbors would often see a small figure moving inside and peeking through the windows. Like many of the dark and twisted toys that have haunted their owners in the past, Robert can be seen at a museum, but if you visit, be warned that this doll doesn't like having its picture taken without its permission. Seriously. And number 1 is Annabelle. Released on October 3rd, 2014, Annabelle is a sequel in the Conjuring horror film series, and although the movie is a work of fiction, it may surprise you to learn that the toy is actually based on a real doll that tormented a pair of nursing students in 1970. Purchased by one of the girls' mothers from a thrift store, Annabelle was actually a Raggedy Ann doll and potentially the worst gift the young woman ever received. Almost immediately after it entered their home, both the woman and her roommate began finding the doll in bizarre places, though neither of them ever moved it. It even attacked a male friend of theirs, scratching him viciously. The pair brought in paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who discovered the doll had been taken over by a demon bent on stealing the owner's soul. The girls gave Annabelle to the Warrens, who locked her in a box, and you can visit her at the museum today if you have the guts. Number 10 is Pocatello Pokey High School. Pocatello, or Pokey High School in Pocatello, Idaho, is considered to be one of the most haunted schools in all of America. After the school was emptied for Christmas break on December 19, 2014, footage from the school's surveillance cameras confirmed suspicions that something otherworldly was in the building. Creepy footage was found of Pokey's empty hallways, showing the lights turning on and off at random before a ghostly figure emerges from a doorway and walks into the hall. Then the hall's lights go dark again. Students and staff alike have claimed to see mysterious shadows and heard ghostly voices in the auditorium, change rooms, and hallways. Paranormal investigators called in by the school discovered that the school burned to the ground in 1914 before it was reopened in 1918. A total of 6 people have died in that school, including a boy who drowned in the pool, and there have been claims that a group of girls may have carried out a suicide pact there. Kind of makes you want to do more research on the schools that you attend, doesn't it? Number 9 is Fordham University. Fordham University in the Bronx, New York was founded in 1841 and built its Rose Hill campus on the land of a former hospital. The school is thought to have dozens of permanent ghostly guests. Within the Martyrs Court dorms, a blonde girl and child's laughter have been witnessed. Sleeping students in Finley Hall have been nearly choked to death by a cold, invisible hand. There's also reports of a wandering boy in Hughes Hall, a cigar-smoking ghost in the administration building, and the spirit of a worker killed during renovations. But the worst is Keating Hall, which was built over the former medical building's morgue tunnels. There have been countless reports of cold spots, shadowy figures, and feelings of being watched and even touched. There are also countless reports of doors being slammed and chairs being thrown against the wall and downstairs, which might make a lot more sense as to why scenes from the movie The Exorcist were filmed at Fordham. Number 8 is Nagasaki University. Nagasaki University in Nagasaki, Japan is the country's national university. It was officially established in 1949, but the university's medical school was founded in 1857. The haunting of this establishment is believed to have happened because of one of the Second World War's most catastrophic events. On August 9th, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped on the city by the United States Army. Upwards of 80,000 people were killed in that that attack. This school was located only 600 meters from the bomb's epicenter and was nearly entirely destroyed. Over 800 students, medical workers, and professionals were on campus at the time and lost their lives. Given the horrific way that they died, it's not so surprising that many of the souls are still wandering the campus, which was restored in 1950. Over 70 years later, countless students, staff, and visitors have reported hearing bone-chilling screams and cries, as well as smelling burning flesh, which is always worse on the anniversary of the attack. Number 7 is Heidelberg University, Germany. Heidelberg University in Germany was founded in 1386 and is the country's oldest university. But this respected place of higher learning had a dark period during the Second World War. Like all other universities in Germany at the time, they supported the Nazi regime. On May 17, 1933, staff and students burned books at the university square. Now, on the anniversary, you can still smell burning leather. But even worse was the school's involvement in Nazi eugenics, the plan to wipe out an entire population of people to make way for the Aryan race. In the school's labs, women underwent forced sterilization, and their ghostly cries are still heard within the clinics. 2 of the school's Jewish professors were killed during the Holocaust, but their ghosts are said to still visit their old classrooms. They're even known to erase chalkboards or leave messages overnight, even when all of the halls and doors have been locked. Number 6 is the University of Cambridge. The University of Cambridge was founded in 1209 and is the second oldest university in England. It's also home to the Ghost Club, Britain's oldest paranormal investigation group, which was founded there in 1855. At Corpus Christi College, the ghost of Vice Chancellor Henry Butts began stalking the hallways after he hanged himself in the office in 1632. Students have even held exorcisms to get rid of him, but with no luck. But by far, the university's most famous otherworldly resident is the ghost of Oliver Cromwell. The former Lord Protector of the Commonwealth died back in 1658, but was so hated that in 1661, his body was hung from chains and even beheaded. His head, which was put on a pole outside Westminster Abbey for 20 years, was later buried under the antechapel at Sydney Sussex College. It's said that his ghostly head has been floating around campus and appearing in windows, probably looking for the rest of his body. Number 5 is the University of Toronto. The University of Toronto in Canada is one of the most haunted places in the country. In 1870, Robert Christie, the wealthy owner of the Christie Mansion on campus, was having an illicit affair. He kept his mistress locked in a secret chamber hidden behind his library, the infamous Room 29. The girl became so depressed that she committed suicide by hanging herself with bed sheets. The room was later converted into a study, and now, if a woman enters the room alone at night, the door will slam shut and can only be opened from the other side. The ghost of the mansion, Ivan Resnikoff, began haunting the grounds in the 1850s after he was killed by his rival Paul Diablos. They were fighting over a woman when Resnikoff tried to kill Diablos with an axe, but Diablos stabbed him to death and hid his body in a ventilation shaft. Resnikoff is still seen in the quad late at night. Number 4 is the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Chung Chi College at the Chinese University of Hong Kong in Shatin, Hong Kong, is home to the ghost of a mysterious faceless woman. Male students are warned against walking home alone late at night along the single braid road if they want to avoid upsetting the wandering spirit. The road itself runs next to the campus and near railroad tracks and the university train station. The ghostly woman is said to have a single long braid and will draw up next next to unsuspecting men. But it's said that when they turn to speak to the mysterious girl, they're met with a terrifying presence of the bloodied, faceless woman. It's believed that the ghost belongs to a woman who had escaped to Hong Kong from mainland China with her boyfriend. The couple had hidden on a train, and her boyfriend successfully jumped from it. However, when the girl tried to jump from the moving car, her braid got caught and ripped her face from her head. To this day, she's seen wandering the campus and haunting male students. Number 3 is Ateneo de Manila University. Ateneo de Manila University in Quezon City, Philippines, was founded in 1859. During World War II, the country was occupied by the Japanese army, and the university was used as a military camp. The ghosts of Japanese servicemen are still seen outside the dormitories, smoking cigarettes and patrolling the halls. But the most haunted site on campus is the Department of Communications building. One evening, after the janitor had cleaned the empty building and was about to lock up, the security guard asked to use the washroom. When the guard returned, the janitor checked the washroom and found the walls and floor streaked with the handprints made from human blood. He confronted him, but the guard had no idea what he was talking about. But when he returned to leave, the janitor saw a handprint on the back of the guard's uniform. There's even rumors that there's a portal to another realm hidden within the building. Number 2 is Gujarat Technological University. Gujarat Technological University in Ahmedabad, India, was only established in 2007, but they still have their share of ghosts. In the summer of 2013, administrative staff, as well as members of the security team, began hearing what sounded like the cries of a woman. But when they went to investigate the cause of the noise, they found no one. But over time, the ghost became more upset and active. The staff claimed that doors would open and slam close on their own, and that they could hear furniture being moved and thrown. However, nothing was ever out of place. The hauntings got so bad that employees started to take leaves of absence due to nerves and extreme fear. One security guard reported that he felt the ghost's presence while in an elevator and reportedly was never the same again. No one knows what brought the ghost to the university, but the higher-ups, who tried to keep the stories quiet, still met with a priest and tried to get rid of it for good, but failed. And number 1 is St. Andrews University. St. Andrews University in Scotland is home to 2 of the country's most infamous spirits, the ghostly monk and the white lady. They appear in the ruins of the university's medieval cathedral and graveyard. The ghostly monk, dressed in full monk robes, has been seen by the visitors climbing up St. Rule's Tower. This robed ghost is actually helpful, asking visitors if they need help and ensures that they find safe passage. Then there's the white lady, who's described as having long hair and wears a long white dress. She's known to float across the grounds before disappearing near the haunted tower. It's believed that she's the ghost of a young woman whose body was found by stonemasons in 1868. The men were working to restore part of the church when they found a concealed room in the haunted tower filled with coffins. The only open coffin contained the perfectly intact body of a beautiful young woman dressed in a white silk dress. Number 10 is Indiana. There are an unbelievable number of people who have reported supernatural experiences in the state of Indiana. Much like the TV show Erie, Indiana, this state is filled with macabre secrets, vengeful spirits, and ghosts that will never let the living rest. For example, the Indiana Central State Hospital is the stuff of nightmares. Closed in 1994, the psychiatric facility is now abandoned, and many have reported horrid screams, invisible hands, and wraiths haunting the building. Indiana is also home to the grave in the middle of the road. This grave sits in the middle of a 2-lane street. When it was recently investigated, it was found that the grave contains, well, things that I'm unable to say in this video. Indiana is known for things that wander the night as terrifying apparitions. Number 9 is Pennsylvania. It's not surprising that Pennsylvania is among America's most haunted states, especially considering that it was the location of some of the most brutal battles during the American Civil War. Gettysburg is considered one of the most haunted places in the world, with areas like the Devil's Den and the Slaughter Pen, where spirits are often seen dressed for battle. In Philadelphia, the Bellroy Mansion can be found, haunted by 7 different spirits, and containing a chair which curses anyone who sits in it. Then there's the Hillview Manor in the city of Newcastle. There, ghost hunters have found entities which will pass through walls. One apparition there can even bring on death if you just look at it. Another place is the Heilbronn Manor in Glen Mills, which is known as one of the most cursed houses in the world, as all who live there meet their end. Number 8 is Arizona. Arizona is another state teeming with tales of spirits and the undead. It's not just the old houses which are haunted there. In Glendale, there's a pizzeria that's haunted by the cries of unseen people, and even the customers there have encountered things moving without being touched. In Yuma Territorial Prison, there's what's known as the Dark Cell. At night, when the cell door is closed, it's said that the ghostly figures of previous inmates appear. And in the Grand Canyon Caverns in Peach Springs, workers there have stood in horror as ghostly figures stand inside the elevator, which is the only way in and out of the cavern. Sometimes the elevator will even move by itself, and some are terrified that the ghost is trying to sabotage the equipment so that all who work down there in the dark will be cut off from the outside world. Number 7 is Utah. Utah attracts many UFO enthusiasts each year to the legendary Skinwalker Ranch, but the state also plays host to many haunted locations. The Mountain Meadows site was the location of a horrifying event during the Utah War. Memorials to those events stand against the backdrop of the mountains, and many visitors claim to have heard ghostly voices wandering the hills alongside the tormented cries of those who died there. The Ben Lomond Hotel in Ogden is another haunted location. Room 1102A is haunted by a woman in a wedding dress who still occupies the room. Southern Utah University is also a hive of paranormal activity. Students and faculty members have encountered a ghostly piano player, as well as a female ghost known as Virginia, who plays a flute and was blamed for the Great Fire of 1948, where at least one person lost their life. Number 6 is California. California is known as the Golden State due to its beautiful weather and the Golden Gate Bridge of San Francisco, but dig a little deeper and there are many accounts of terrifying paranormal encounters. The Whaley House, for example, is an old-fashioned brick building which was once used both as a morgue and a theater. Footsteps of its previous owners are often heard through its halls, and the creak of a swinging rope also echoes out through the night. Alcatraz is the most famous prison in the world, and several of its cells are said to be haunted, even when previously occupied by mobster Al Capone. Battery Point Lighthouse is another infamous Californian location. Found in Crescent City, the lighthouse has stood since 1856, and it's haunted by an intrusive ghost who walks the spiral stairs of the lighthouse and even physically harms guests. Number 5 is New York. New York State contains more than just the famous city, it also contains some of the creepiest haunted locations in the world. The Iron Island in Buffalo was at one time both a church and a funeral home. Several paranormal researchers have been amazed by the activity there, including eerie floating lights, moving shadows, and the spirit of Edgar Zernicki, whose ashes were never claimed by family and can be found in the basement. You may have also heard of the infamous Amityville House, which can be found in New York State, but other locations such as Burn Bray Mansion in Glenspie may have their own supernatural guests who take delight in frightening anyone who stays there. The Forest Park Cemetery in Brunswick is also of note, as inexplicable cold spots dot the graves and statues have lost limbs, from which some say they bleed. Number 4 is Nebraska. Many people are surprised to learn that Nebraska is the state with the 4th largest number of reported paranormal incidents. Locations such as Ball Cemetery in Springfield show that the state most certainly deserves this macabre accolade. Ball Cemetery is home to the ghost of a tall, thin man who attempts to isolate people from their group in order to attack them. The Centennial Hall in Valentine has housed many a musical performance, but it also is haunted by the ghost of a clarinet player who died there after the reed of their clarinet was dipped in poison. The Seven Sisters Road in Nebraska City is a long, lonely place and contains the tormented souls of 7 sisters who died there. Many drivers have traveled along this road at night only to find their engine and lights have cut out while something breathes down their neck from the back seat. Number 3 is Nevada. Nevada is a place of deserts, Las Vegas in Area 51, but it's also the 3rd most haunted state in the US. This shouldn't come as a surprise considering Las Vegas's connections to organized crime back in the day. At the Luxor Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, there's an exhibit containing wreckage and artifacts from the Titanic. Employees and visitors have encountered the ghostly apparitions of those who perished on that famous ship, many never wanting to return to their hotel rooms because of them. The Clown Motel in Tonopah is adorned with hundreds of creepy clown dolls, but it also has been the site of a mysterious plague and sits on top of an old miner cemetery. Many have heard ghostly voices there and a disembodied laugh so chilling it causes people to run from the hotel screaming. Number 2 is Ohio. Ohio is the 2nd most haunted state in the United States, with an old psychiatric hospital known as the Athens Asylum labeled as one of the scariest places on Earth. Numerous visitors to this huge abandoned building claim that they heard fingernails being run across the walls, people screaming from the basement, and even horrific faces peering out of broken windows. In Cincinnati, there's the Eden Park Gazebo, a relic from the golden age of jazz. The old bandstand is haunted by its very own terrifying woman in black, who appears in the twilight hours of those brave enough to walk past. The Franklin Castle in Cleveland is said to be the most haunted house in Ohio, and with its secret passages, turrets, haunting inexplicable organ music, and screaming wraiths, it's easy to see why. And number 1 is North Dakota. Between 2017 and 2018, more ghostly encounters were registered in North Dakota than anywhere else in the United States. North Dakota State University in Fargo is an uneasy reminder of why this is the case. Some of the halls are said to be haunted by previous students who knock books out of people's hands and cause electronics to fail. But the creature in the basement is far, far worse. This entity is said to strike fear into the hearts of even the most seasoned paranormal investigators. Some believe this is to be because of a series of unholy experiments that was carried out down there. There's also the Sand Haven Sanatorium in Dunseth. This abandoned institute is so dangerous that urban explorers have come face to face with a deadly apparition so frightening that its victims would rather climb out through a window than face its horrid grin. Number 10 is the Ganjeom Psychiatric Hospital. Just outside of the city of Gwangju in South Korea is the Ganjeom Psychiatric Hospital, believed to be one of the biggest paranormal hotspots in the country. Closed in 1996 under unclear circumstances, Gonjiam is still filled with much of the hospital beds, furniture, and paperwork that filled its rooms when it was still in use, almost as if everyone left in a hurry. Rumors for its closure involved a string of deaths, many of them patients. Deaths that could not be explained to their families because they were actually a mystery, or because potentially foul play was involved by the doctors. The owner of this facility fled to the United States just before the hospital shut down and was never heard from again. However, if you visit Gonjiam late at night, it's said that you can still hear its ghostly patients. Number 9 is Denbigh Asylum. Completed in 1848, Denbigh Asylum has the honor of being the first institution for the mentally ill in Wales. It was built to house 200 people, but a flood of patients forced an expansion in 1899, allowing for 1,500 patients to access treatment. Though Denbigh Asylum was an important first step towards recovery for the mentally ill, it destroyed the lives of some of its patients with prefrontal lobotomies, removing bits of their brain. Since the asylum's closure in 1995, it has become a favorite spot for many ghost hunters who have captured various paranormal activity on audio recordings. Witnesses have even described hearing the sounds of laughter as well as screaming coming from the buildings, as well as loud bangs and footsteps. One group in particular reported that they felt that they were being watched and then threatened with the sounds of slamming doors. Despite being abandoned for over 20 years, it would appear that there are still some residents remaining. Number 8 is Several's Mental Hospital. Several's Mental Hospital officially opened in May of 1913 in Mile End, England, and was a pioneering institution in the field of medical practices. The doctors at Several's were encouraged to experiment and try whatever they wished on the patients, which led to a lot of unneeded lobotomies and electroconvulsive treatments, which are now outlawed. These treatments were used more frequently in the 1950s on women who were admitted for symptoms of depression or if they had illegitimate children. Its doors closed forever in 1997, but it may not be completely empty. According to 2 gardeners, a pair of shadowy figures were seen working on the estate during a rainstorm. When the gardeners approached to confront the unknown workers, they dematerialized right in front of them. This is just one disturbing report among many coming from this abandoned hospital. Number 7 is Danvers State Hospital. Known for its inspirational qualities in the horror genre, the haunted Danvers State Hospital in Danvers, Massachusetts was the birthplace of the prefrontal lobotomy. It was these lobotomies which turned patients into what's being described as living zombies. Opened in 1878, Danvers was built and staffed to house 600 patients, but as time went on, overcrowding became a serious issue, and by 1939, the hospital housed around 2,360 patients, which was a deadly problem. Due to staff shortages, patients were checked on very infrequently, and any who died from neglect were sometimes left undiscovered for several days. That is, until a doctor finally came by. Anyone brave enough to enter today might just hear mysterious footsteps, see shadowy apparitions, lights flickering on and off, or even doors opening and closing on their own. Have a visit at your own peril. Number 6 is the Overbrook Asylum. Overbrook Asylum was originally built in 1896 as a new hospital in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. During the mid-1920s, it became an insane asylum and ran until its closure in 2007. But what's truly disturbing is that around 10,000 patients met their own death at Overbrook. The facility couldn't keep up with the high demand for mental institutions in New Jersey, with problems of patient overpopulation and understaffing which led to neglected affected patients. Horrifyingly, patients were lobotomized just to keep them harmless and docile, simply because Overbrook did not have the resources to look after them. Since its closure, urban explorers and ghost hunters that managed to sneak past security have witnessed the phantom of a nurse that still makes her rounds in the abandoned hallways. Other visitors have heard impossible sounds of squeaky hospital bed wheels echoing throughout the hallways. Not exactly a place you'd like to visit on vacation. Number 5 is the Pennhurst Asylum. Formerly known as the Pennsylvania State Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic, Pennhurst has a long track record of subjecting its patients to torture and malpractice. The asylum, located in Spring City, Pennsylvania, officially closed its doors on December 9, 1987, after nearly 80 years of housing patients. Ex-patients have told stories of being chained to walls, children being kept in cages, and even some being forced to fight other patients. Now closed, Pennhurst attracts curious explorers who report lots of paranormal activity from the deceased former inmates. There are reports of visitors being shoved around and items being known to fly across rooms. Audio recordings from ghost hunters have captured eerie voices saying "I'll kill you" and "go away," along with distant shrieks and crying. Number 4 is Willard Asylum for the Chronic Insane. Located in Ovid, New York, the Willard Asylum for the Chronic Insane was built in 1869 and operated until it closed in 1995. Most of the patients at Willard were committed and either forgotten or left by their families to live out the rest of their lives at this facility. When they died, they would be buried in secret across the road in unmarked graves to avoid frightening current patients. The earliest patients came from horrible prisons and poorhouses, where they were shackled and beaten. Their conditions in life became extremely severe as a product of their torture, and in death, they continue to lash out at those around them. Paranormal sightings at Willard have commonly involved a particular red-headed woman with long hair who walks throughout the hallways and will sometimes let out a harsh scream during the late hours of the night. Number 3 is the Taunton State Hospital. Closed in 1975 and left abandoned until a fire mysteriously destroyed most of it, Taunton State Hospital in Taunton, Massachusetts has an extremely dark history. Built in 1854, Taunton has seen some of America's most dangerously insane criminals, including the serial killer nurse Jane Toppin, who administered slow deaths to 31 of her patients. Many residents and visitors reported feeling uneasy when passing the basement door. Patients recalled having seen specific doctors and nurses escort people down to the basement, never to be seen again. After Taunton's closure, the basement was known as the epicenter for the most intense paranormal visions. Those who entered experienced anxiety attacks, while others have witnessed shadows creeping along the walls. Number 2 is Poveglia Island Asylum. Built on an island off of the coast of Venice in 1922, Poveglia Island Asylum contained Italy's mentally insane patients, but the island itself harbored a dark and gruesome history that also drove people to madness. In the 18th century, Poveglia was used as a quarantine island for those infected with the Black Plague, who would wait to die far from the rest of Italy. It is said that over 100,000 people have died there, and that 50% of the topsoil consists of human ash. When the asylum was established, its medical staff were known for performing botched lobotomies and sick experiments on the patients. The head doctor himself was driven insane, purportedly by the ghosts of plague victims, and leapt off the hospital bell tower to his death. To this day, locals can still hear ringing from the tower, even though the bell is gone. And number 1 is Norwich State Hospital for the mentally insane. Between the town of Preston and the city of Norwich in Connecticut are the remains of the Norwich State Hospital for the Mentally Insane. Since its opening in October of 1904, it has been prone to tragedies and controversies. Several people have taken their own lives at Norwich, and widespread abuse, both physically and sexually, was commonplace for many patients. Since the facility closed in 1996, it's been known to scare its visitors with loud screams, children's voices, wheelchairs, and gurneys that move by themselves, as well as footsteps and groans. The malicious spirits tied to the asylum have also made themselves known by producing clouds of mist, lights with no clear source, and shadowy silhouettes. However, the boldest of them show glimpses of their faces in the reflections of shattered window panes, terrifying witnesses. Number 10 is the Old Shengji Hospital, Singapore. Founded in 1935 in Shengji, Singapore, this general hospital, referred to as Old Shengji Hospital, was closed in late December of 1997. Though all of the living patients and staff left, it's been long rumored that many of the dead have remained. Called the most haunted location in all of Singapore, Old Shengji is said to have a large number of spirits inside its walls, many of them being soldiers who are understandably angry over losing their lives during the Japanese occupation of the country during World War II that lasted from 1942 until 1945. Some of these soldiers are often heard screaming as if being tortured today. Other encounters have included hearing pleas of mercy, spotting dead patients who look like they're still suffering, and shadowy figures that lurk in the darker areas. All of them watching people from the darkness as if waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Number 9 is Babenhausen, Germany. Labeled by many as the most haunted area in all of the country, Babenhausen is a town located in Hesse, Germany. A military town, Babenhausen has a World War II barracks in their backyard, and it's not uncommon to see German soldiers in full uniform in the area. But of course, those soldiers are very much dead. People in the town have even claimed to see large numbers of ghostly soldiers marching in formation in and around the barracks, which have been transformed into a war museum. Inside the building, legend has it that if a soldier picks up a certain telephone, a woman can be heard on the other end eerily speaking backwards. The region is a place of death, especially in regards to war, but the most popular ghost isn't a soldier at all. It's actually a witch. An angry spirit who was burned at the stake, the witch has apparently seduced a number of German soldiers and ultimately killed them. Number 8 is Jerome, Arizona, USA. When someone refers to an area as a ghost town, they usually mean an abandoned group of buildings, not a place populated by the spirits of the dead. However, when they're talking about Jerome, Arizona, they might quite literally mean both. A town formed in the late 1800s around the mining of copper and other ores, Jerome saw more than its fair share of death to accidents in the mines, opium overdoses, and even gunfights before the ore source was depleted and the population dwindled to less than 100 citizens. Today, only 44 people, mostly artists, have made Jerome their home. However, they share the town with a large number of ghosts. They include a prostitute who was stabbed to death by a miner who wanders the roads. Another, a bordello owner who was also murdered by a client and likes to throw cooking utensils that are not put away properly. And another, a grumpy-looking shadowy man who appears suddenly to startle people. These among hundreds of others who have yet to find rest. Number 7 is Hotel McDonald, Alberta, Canada. Opened on July 5th, 1915 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, this chateau-style hotel was named after the country's first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, and is today considered one of the most prominent locations for paranormal activity. Unlike many other haunted locations, the spirits haunting Hotel McDonald are not all human. One ghostly creature in particular makes itself known more than any other at the haunted hotel. At night, many guests have reported hearing a horse, as well as a carriage, clopping along briskly, but not outside in the parking lot or even in the lobby, but down the hallways of the 8th and uppermost floor of the building. It's said that the horse suddenly fell dead on site during the initial pouring of the hotel's foundation in 1914. Night managers have also been known to receive calls from rooms on the 6th floor, but when they investigate, the room is completely vacant and undisturbed. Number 6 is St. Augustine Lighthouse, Florida, USA. Built in 1874 at the northern tip of Anastasia Island in Florida, United States, at St. Augustine Lighthouse is still an active beacon today. However, there are other, much darker and more mysterious things active at this landmark, namely the spirits of the dead. Multiple visitors and staff at the lighthouse have claimed to smell cigars when there are no smokers in the vicinity. This is said to be a sign that the ghost of Peter Rasmussen, one of the first keepers of St. Augustine, is nearby. Rasmussen isn't the only late keeper to haunt the premises, as people have also seen Joseph Andrew standing at the top of the tower. Andrew accidentally fell from the lighthouse while painting it and died over 100 years ago, but he too is still present, keeping an eye on the waters. Also often seen are the ghosts of two young girls, Eliza and Mary Pitty, who died in the late 1800s and can still be heard laughing in the tower late at night. Number 5 is Mary King's Close, Scotland. Back in the 16th and 17th centuries, the city of Edinburgh, Scotland, was made up of the Royal Mile, the largest and busiest street. It was also made up of a number of clouses, which were alleyways. Named after Mary King, a local merchant burgess, Mary King's Close is one such alleyway, but has long been partially demolished and buried as the city modernized. Much of the area can still be accessed today, and often is, especially by those looking for a paranormal experience. A number of ghosts haunt the alley, including Annie, a girl around 12 years old who likes to tug at people's legs while they walk, and a spirit who makes people feel disoriented and sick to their stomachs. While some try to simply explain away the odd visual and audible experiences that people have while walking along Mary King's Close as the result of gas-induced hallucinations, others know that what has happened to them was purely paranormal. Number 4 is Lawang Soyu, Indonesia. Completed in 1919, Lawang Soyu, or Thousand Doors, was the headquarters for the Dutch East Indies Railway Company in the city of Semarang, East Java, Indonesia. As it stands today, it is one of the most famous haunted houses in the world. In addition to the more commonly encountered spirits of a Dutch woman who took her own life and a number of headless ghouls, the most terrifying creature said to lurk in the shadows of the B building's basement is the Pontianak, a pale-skinned, red-eyed, vampiric-looking woman with long black hair who wears a blood-soaked white dress. She's most often encountered during a full moon, and over the last several years, the Indonesian government has put a great deal of time and effort into rebranding the building in an attempt to change the eerie feelings that it gives people. But to their dismay, it's still regarded as a huge paranormal hotspot. Number 3 is the Queen Mary Hotel, California, United States. Though this hotel currently sits in Long Beach Harbor in California, United States, before it was retired, the RMS Queen Mary, a 305-meter-long ocean liner, was a legendary vessel. Christened on September 26, 1934, this ship was a luxurious passenger liner, but became a military transport during World War II, even participating in the world-changing events of D-Day. Today, while many people call the Queen Mary their temporary home away from home, there are a large number of spirits that permanently reside there. These include an 18-year-old bearded man in blue overalls who walks along the hallway in the engine room, always disappearing when he reaches the spot of his death. It also includes a number of female swimmers near the now closed pools, a woman in white who dances in the shadows, and a drowned girl who seems to like talking to people. Over 150 apparitions have been seen, though that number continues to grow. Number 2 is Bangalore Fort, India. Located in the Rajasthan state of India in the 1600s, Bangalore Fort is world famous for being the most haunted place in all of India. In fact, this well-preserved fort is so haunted that the Archaeological Survey of India has posted a notice at the site's entrance that declares no one is allowed to be inside after sunset. This is due to the amount of paranormal occurrences escalating sharply at night, and the fact that authorities have no interest in going into the cursed area in order to save someone unlucky enough to be inside. With the wails and cries coming out of the fort, it's likely people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between those coming from the living and those coming from the dead. It's difficult to pinpoint if the ghosts are those of royalty, soldiers, or an infamous wizard, as nobody who spends the night in Bangalore Fort is found the next day to describe it. And number 1 is Enfield Haunting, England. While some apparitions seem to be content simply being seen or heard, others, in particular poltergeists, prefer to make their presence known in physical, horrifying ways. Such appears to have been the case for one such paranormal creature in the council house of Brimsdown, Enfield, England. The rental home in the North London neighbourhood was the site of one of the most physical hauntings to ever hit the UK. A poltergeist tormented 2 preteen sisters, Margaret and Janet Hodgson, by moving furniture, knocking suddenly and loudly, yelling at them in a demonic voice, and at times attacking them by hurling toys and smaller items at them. The ghost was very angry and very powerful, sometimes even expressing it by throwing the sisters around the room. A series of photos captured of Janet shows the then 11-year-old being tossed right up out of bed while she screamed for it to stop. Number 1 is the Great Pyramid of Giza. On November 26, 1922, after 7 years of searching, archaeologist Howard Carter finally discovered the tomb of the boy pharaoh Tutankhamun and all the treasures that came with it. Many people feared for the man's life, as it was said that there was a famous curse on the tomb that claimed death shall come on swift wings to him that toucheth the tomb of the pharaoh. Though it's been said that Carter avoided the ancient curse and died peacefully in 1939, many have claimed to have seen him wandering the pyramid of Giza, as if his soul is not being allowed to rest. Additionally, floating orbs have been seen, whispering and footsteps have been heard, and even 2 young children were seen running about the crypts only to vanish. Number 2 is Edinburgh Castle. Scotland is no stranger to ghost stories, having a number of castles with almost every one of them said to be haunted. But by far the most famous of them overlooks what is said to be the most haunted city in all of Europe, Edinburgh. Throughout history, Edinburgh Castle has been the site of considerable death and bloodshed, creating the perfect site for paranormal activity. Hundreds upon hundreds of tourists and staff at the castle have reported feeling being pulled at, shoved, pinched, or otherwise touched by something that they couldn't see. The sounds of whispering, screaming, laughing, and the bang of a drum have all been heard, and many have seen the legendary headless drummer boy himself. Other visible apparitions include a decrepit old man, an angry woman, battered prisoners, and a ghostly dog that wanders the cemetery on the grounds. One chilling tale tells of a piper who wandered the tunnels under the castle hundreds of years ago. He played his bagpipes as he marched, so people could track his progress, but suddenly he stopped playing. He was never found, but it was said on a dark night you can still hear him playing. Number 3 is Corvin Castle. Located in Romania, Corvin Castle is known to the locals as Hunyad Castle, but you may better know it as Dracula's Castle. Built between 1307 and 1315 by Charles I, Corvin is widely considered to be one of the most haunted castles in the world, and with a dark history like this place has, it's no wonder that it has the reputation that it does. Corvin Castle's interior fountain was said to have been constructed by Turkish prisoners who were promised freedom upon completion but never got it. It's said that their angry spirits still wander the halls. A dungeon under the castle's Hall of Knights was even home to Vlad the Impaler for 7 years, from 1462 until 1469, as King Corvin had him imprisoned there. It's said that this is where the blood-crazed ruler truly lost his mind, and became the legendary ruthless inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Visitors have claimed to have heard screaming of slaves, seeing silhouettes of figures in pictures taken there, and some have even claimed that angry spirits have left marks on them, torturing them as they spent the night there. Number 4 is Bangar Fort. Built by King Sawe Madho Singh in the early 1600s, Bangar Fort is surrounded by ruins and the decaying husks of several temples that have withered so much it's hard to pinpoint just how many there actually were 400 years ago. To put it simply, it looks just like the kind of place people could easily go missing. Though the fort is a world-famous landmark, the local Indian people refuse to live anywhere near it. In fact, young locals call it Bhoot Bangla, or the Fort of Ghosts. At night, multiple ghosts have been sighted walking about the structure, so much so that locals were forced to have the entire fort locked up. It's even said that several people who have foolishly spent the night there have been found dead the next morning, making Bangar Fort not only an Indian landmark, but also the most haunted place in all of India. Number 5 is Chateau de Chateaubriand. Located in France, Chateau de Chateaubriand was first constructed in the 11th century, and since then has seen a great deal of murder, war, and mystery. Part of that mystery involves the ghosts who tend to appear, some of them on a routine schedule. On October 16, 1537, Françoise de Foix died in her room inside Chateaubriand. A mistress of King Francis I of France, she was killed by her husband, Jean de Laval, who couldn't handle his knowledge of the affair. Since then, on October 16th of every year, the ghost of Francois can be seen wandering around the castle. It's been said that a bloodstain often appears on the floor of her room where she died, and if you're there at the stroke of midnight on that anniversary, you can watch a procession of ghosts, knights, monks, and Francois herself that make their way up their staircase. Number 6 is Castle of Good Hope. Castle of Good Hope was built in South Africa in 1674 and stands today as the oldest and largest of the country's colonial buildings. A big draw for tourists, the fortress houses quite a few specters, including a tall, glowing man who's been seen standing atop the fort's high walls, staring down at the town below. If you're truly lucky, you might even see him leap off the wall to his apparent death. In the 1700s, a soldier hanged himself in the bell tower, and the room was sealed off, and to this day, people claim to hear one of the bells ringing from time to time. It's also said that you can hear the hanging man's footsteps as he makes his way to the spot where he took his own life. Other ghosts include a crying woman in gray, a beautiful young lady, and a black ghostly hound that pounces on people, even knocking them to the ground before disappearing. Number 7 is the Forbidden City. There's a lot of reasons this city has the name that it does. Located in Beijing, China, the Forbidden City, or the Purple City as it's known there, was the imperial palace for the Ming Dynasty. Built between 1406 and 1420, the palace was only accessible by the upper class, with anyone deemed unworthy not even allowed to hear the stories that it exists. The Forbidden City had over 600 years of assassinations, plotting, and cold-blooded murder in its history. That That said, there's no wonder why the building is known as one of the most haunted places in not only China, but the entire world. The most famous ghost there is the Weeping Woman, who has been seen in white garments crying in various parts of the complex. Guards and passers-by have reported hearing someone play a flute, even though there's no discernible source. Other ghosts, including royalty, guards, and even some concubines who were murdered there, have also been seen. Number 8 is Mount Everest. Mount Everest is known for its incredibly difficult challenge of reaching the top. But what's lesser known is the sheer amount of death that's happened there. Which makes sense. Those who climb this mountain have to face a climb that surpasses 29,000 feet above sea level, so death is very much a risk. A number of people who've attempted to climb Everest have reported seeing ghosts of those who died on the mountain at various points in their journey from base camp to peak. Over 220 human beings have lost their lives trying to reach the top, with some of them radioing down, claiming to see people in old climbing gear standing in front of them before the radio goes permanently silent. Some of the ghosts seem to encourage climbers to make it, while others, seemingly jealous of them, go about trying to scare them right off the rock. Number 9 is the Tower of London. Easily one of the most haunted places in the United Kingdom, the Tower of London has multiple spirits in it, almost all of them malevolent. Built by William the Conqueror on the north bank of the River Thames in 1078, the tower is officially known as Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress, and is home to the ghosts of Anne Boleyn, Lady Jane Grey, and Thomas A. Becket, as well as many others. Beheaded on May 19, 1536, Queen Anne Boleyn is said to be the most widely seen and persistent of the building's paranormal inhabitants. Witnesses claim she walks about the castle, a headless apparition, while others have seen her wandering around the site of her execution. The ghosts of 2 separate children, former princes, have also been seen, walking as they hold hands with looks of sheer horror on their faces, silently whispering, "Come play with us." And number 10 is the White House. Quite possibly the world's most famous house, the White House is not just a place that the President of the United States and their family calls home, but it's also home to a number of apparitions. It's been reported by multiple people, including Prime Minister Winston Churchill and Presidents Roosevelt, Hoover, and Eisenhower, that Abraham Lincoln himself has appeared in the building, standing by a fireplace, pacing the upper hallways, or, in one occurrence, knocking on bedroom doors at night. He's considered the most frequently cited ghost in the White House, with many suggesting that since he was assassinated, he left a lot of work unfinished. The ghosts of Presidents Andrew Jackson, Thomas Jefferson, and John Tyler have been encountered, as well as a number of other individuals, including ex-first ladies, employees, and even British soldiers. People have heard voices, felt cold spots, and seen full-bodied apparitions appear before them, making the White House a paranormal anomaly. So, those were 10 famous landmarks that are haunted. But I want to know from you, what do you think of these paranormal encounters? Are they simply people's imaginations playing tricks on them in the dark, or something more diabolical? Leave your comments below because I'll be reading through them and I'm going to pin the best one to the top. Number 10 is the Bodmin Jail. Considered to be one of the most haunted locations in all of Britain, Bodmin Jail in Cornwall, England, has a dark past, one that clearly left a mark on the institution in the form of angry spirits. Built in 1779, the prison operated for 150 years before closing. But while the living prisoners were transferred to other places, the dead seemed to stick around. Shadows moving, whispers without a source, and even physical contact have all been documented by those who visit. One of the most famous ghosts within Bodmin's walls is Selina Wage, a mother who drowned her own child and died while incarcerated. She's been said to torment expecting mothers and children who walk by, tugging at their hair or grabbing them in an attempt to get their attention so that they can forgive her for the horrific crime that she committed. Number 9 is Cripple Creek Jail. In the late 1800s, a gold rush increased the population of Cripple Creek, Colorado, from just 15 people to over 50,000. This caused a big rise in crime, and those who broke the law usually found themselves in Cripple Creek Jail. Of course, with only a few guards and even fewer cells, the prison was ill-equipped to handle the number of prisoners it took in, and many inmates died. It's been said that angry ghosts have stayed behind to torment others. One spirit, a female guard, has appeared before multiple visitors, revealing that she and the ghosts of other jailers are still on the job, keeping the ghosts of several inmates contained. Oddly, one of the most frequently seen apparitions is that of a young girl, who will walk into the jail's front door and disappear right before the eyes of witnesses. Number 8 is the Ararat County Jail. Renamed J Ward in 1886, the Ararat County Jail is rightfully located in Ararat County in Victoria, Australia. Opened on October 10, 1861, the prison became home to the country's criminally insane, but today is the home of the ghosts of those criminals. During its time, J Ward saw its inmates put through horrific treatment, many of them completely undeserving of the ordeals that they were put through. The screams of those put through therapies, such as lobotomies without anesthetic, can still be heard, and a number of visitors have reported being touched or grabbed by unseen entities. One particular spirit, an evil nurse called Nurse Carrie, still protects her ward, forcing anyone who visits to leave so that they won't see how she and her fellow staff treat the patients. Number 7 is Moundsville Penitentiary. Located in Moundsville, West Virginia, this Gothic-style prison is well known for being a paranormal hotspot. In the 1930s, guards at Moundsville Penitentiary would frequently notice an inmate out of his cell and walking the outer grounds. But when they sounded the alarm and the cells were checked, they realized that nobody had escaped, and the figure out in the yard had disappeared. This gave the prison a reputation for housing ghosts, one which would only grow as more and more terrifying instances occurred. But perhaps the most unsettling apparition stays within the penitentiary's walls, and has been nicknamed the Shadow Man. This dark spirit remains in the shadows and reportedly has no face, making it even more horrifying to encounter, and has scared the wits out of a number of visitors. Number 6 is the Tower of London. Founded in 1066, the Tower of London is actually made up of several buildings that stand inside 2 rings of walls and a wide moat that surrounds everything. The entire castle was a symbol of oppression inflicted by William the Conqueror, and later, in the year 1100, became a prison. The ghosts haunting the Tower of London include some pretty famous faces, including that of Anne Boleyn, who's actually been spotted walking around the fortress grounds holding her own severed head. Another tortured soul who was held at the tower was Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury, who denied being a traitor and wouldn't lay down to be executed. A number of visitors to the castle have witnessed the bloody scene played out by Pole's ghost, who was butchered to death on the green. Number 5 is Ohio State Reformatory. Known as the Mansfield Reformatory, the Ohio State Reformatory was built between 1886 and 1910 in Mansfield, Ohio, and was made famous for its use in the production of The Shawshank Redemption. The prison was ordered closed in 1990 after the brutal conditions inmates endured came to light. But in 1995, the Mansfield Reformatory Preservation Society opened the building to ghost tours. Today, it's widely considered among ghost hunters to be one of the most active haunted locations within the United States. If you ever find yourself on one of the tours, expect to encounter cold spots in random places and to have any electronic devices experience interference or otherwise malfunction. Photographs have captured a number of orbs, and more disturbingly, there have been several physical hostile encounters that have been reported. Number 4 is the Corrosta Naval Port Prison. When it opened in the year 1900, the Karosta Naval Port Prison in Latvia was a Soviet military detention center, housing soldiers who committed serious offenses or attempted to desert. According to recorded history, since the prison's doors first opened, nobody incarcerated there managed to escape. Inside, the walls still contain grim messages carved into them by prisoners, many which died while there. Karosta was designed to break the spirits of those within it, and those spirits still roam the halls, creating loud footsteps, opening cell doors that were locked, unscrewing and smashing light bulbs, and even appearing suddenly before terrified visitors. Since 2013, it's hosted Extreme Night, where visitors can actually spend the night locked up in their own cells at the spirit's mercy. Number 3 is Alcatraz. Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary sits on the appropriately named Alcatraz Island in the San Francisco Bay and is considered one of the most haunted places in the US. But even before it was a prison, there were tales of evil spirits inhabiting the island told by the Native Americans. It was even described by Mark Twain as being as cold as winter even in the summer months. Everyone, from former guards to inmates to modern-day tourists, have claimed to experience paranormal occurrences inside the walls of Alcatraz, with some simply hearing whispers and cries from empty cells, while others witness the appearance of actual apparitions moving along the dark corridors. There are even reports of sudden temperature drops and cell doors closing, as well as locking on their own. Number 2 is the Shepton Mallet Prison. Shepton Mallet Prison, also referred to as Cornhill, is located in Shepton Mallet, Somerset, England, and just prior to closing in 2013 was the oldest operating prison in the UK. Being a functioning institution since 1625 and also a Category C prison, which meant it had the most notorious and dangerous inmates, the facility saw a number of grisly murders over the years. The grounds around Shepton Mallet Prison are littered with the unmarked graves of the many who were either executed by hanging or firing squad, or had died from various conditions such as smallpox and malnutrition. Many ghosts haunt the complex, including a woman in white and several executed inmates who cry out and laugh. In one terrifying instance, a guard was even attacked by an invisible assailant who burned him. And number 1 is Eastern State Penitentiary. Opened in 1829 and closed in 1971, Eastern State Penitentiary was a prison in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania that was, at the time of its completion, the largest and most expensive public structure built in the US. But what makes the massive complex so famous today is the number of ghostly encounters people seem to experience while inside of it. Eastern State has a long and unsettling history of torture, illness, suicides, and of course murder, which has allegedly resulted in the facility housing a number of terrifying apparitions. Cell blocks contain spirits of prisoners that laugh evilly, whisper, cry out, or dart from cell to cell, while the silhouette of a guard has been seen watching visitors on tour. And in one of the most terrifying documented encounters, one inmate even spoke of being physically restrained by unseen forces. Number 10 is Kings Island. Located in Mason, Ohio, Kings Island is an amusement park known for its 15 roller coasters and 33-acre water park. Opened in 1972, the park was an effort to expand a resort on the Ohio River. It's a pretty standard tourist attraction, with the exception of its popularity for being one of the most haunted theme parks on the planet. The ghost of a young girl in a blue dress has been spotted by numerous visitors and staff at the park. In addition, a boy in a white suit has also been seen by a set of train tracks near the park and on motion sensors within the park. Many believe the reason Kings Island is such a paranormal hotspot is because of the very real graveyard that is within the theme park's boundaries. Although haunted, this is still a hotspot for tourists, as well as theme park fanatics alike. Number 9 is Takakanenuma. Located on the outskirts of Hobara, a town in Date, Japan, Takakanenuma Greenland Amusement Park opened in 1973, only to suddenly close without warning just 2 years later. It's believed to have been reopened in 1986 and continued to run for 13 additional years before being permanently shut down. Spokespeople claimed it was for repairs and improvements, but those living in the area claimed a number of ride-related deaths were the real reason. Today the park sits rusting and being hidden by trees, while the people of the area pretend it does not exist, as it can't be found on any map. In the evenings, a thick fog always seems to roll in, bringing with it the chill of death. In 2007, an urban explorer took several photos of the now abandoned park, only to find that just one was saved, that of a ghostly little girl. Number 8 is Okpo Land. Okpo Land was once one of Asia's most famous amusement parks. Located on the small island of Goje, this park attracted millions of living customers, but a series of horrible accidents, some of which ended in fatalities, forced the park to close in May of '99. The most well-known incident involved a young girl who lost her life when the duck car that she was riding in came off the track and toppled over the side. It's said her ghost, among a few others, haunted the theme park grounds at night, especially in the area around where she died. If things weren't creepy enough, the owner never sent condolences to anyone impacted by the deaths. In addition, he suddenly disappeared the day after the park closed, and no one has seen him since. Number 7 is Cedar Point. Located in Sandusky, Ohio, Cedar Point is usually full of living, happy people enjoying some fun activities. However, it's also known for having one of the most haunted rides on the planet that's still in operation. The Midday Carousel is the oldest ride at Cedar Point, and it's also the most haunted. The carousel's original creator made one of the horses on the ride, one which his wife loved so much that after her death she returned to ride it. She can be seen riding her favorite horse, and it's even said that her love for it is so strong that it makes it nearly impossible to take pictures of it. There's a replica horse in the museum of the park, and some people claim to have heard her walking around or tugging at their clothes while there. Number 6 is Spree Park. Closed in 2000 after going into severe debt, Germany's Spree Park now stands as a skeleton of what it once was. Opened in 1969, Spree Park brought in only 400,000 visitors in 2001 before it closed the next year. This was due to having large debts, and the park having to charge more, plus there was not enough parking for guests. However, just prior to closing, they tried to change things to give the park a more Western theme. Today, the grounds terrify people, and urban explorers enjoy snapping photos of the toppled statues and collapsing rides. Adding to the eerie feeling simply being in the park brings to visitors is the dilapidated Ferris wheel that always seems to be turning. Though some claim it's the wind moving the giant ride, many have seen it turning on breezeless days, and the screech it emits sounds like screaming. Number 5 is Disneyland. Located in Anaheim, California, the happiest place on earth, Disneyland, is also one of the creepiest. Multiple ghosts haunt the grounds, including that of a teenage boy who pulls women's hair. Another is a woman in an old gown who guides lost children to safety, a young man who's often seen running alongside the monorail, and Mr. One-Way, who rides Space Mountain alongside single passengers. But the most legendary ghost is that of Walt Disney himself. After his death in 1966, a cast member had turned off a light in his apartment above the fire station on Main Street, only to later return to find the light came back on. She claimed to then hear the voice whisper, "I'm still here." Since then, a tradition has been upheld, and the light has never been turned off since. Number 4 is Nara Dreamland. Opened as Japan's answer to Disneyland in 1961, Nara Dreamland closed in August of 2006 after more genuine versions of Disney and Universal Studios arrived in the area. The amusement park was quickly abandoned, largely due to a lack of business, and as nature took over the rides, stories of evil taking over as well began to spread. Although guarded for several years, ghost hunters were sneaking onto the property, hoping to snap a photo or even just be one of the people to experience paranormal activity among what used to be happiness to the living. What was left of Nara Dreamland was demolished in 2017, and the land now remains barren. But whatever happened to the spirits that were said to be haunting the park is unknown. Number 3 is Raging Waters. Raging Waters is 50 acres of water park fun located in San Dimas, California. Though it attracts a number of guests every year to cool off, it does have some rather risky rides and slides. It's also home to some more permanent guests in the form of visitors who lost their lives there. One such ghost is that of an 8-year-old girl who drowned at the park in July of '85. She's often seen by employees in the lower plaza's food area, near where the first aid center used to be. It's assumed that she haunts the place where she took her last breath in Wave Cove, a beach-like attraction that generates meter-tall waves using high-powered fans. Today, employees are hesitant to go down to the lower plaza, especially alone, due to claims of the little girl often making her presence felt in creepy ways. Number 2 is Taman Festival Park. In the seaside town of Sanur on the island of Bali in Indonesia, there's an abandoned theme park so terrifyingly haunted that locals refuse to set foot within its boundaries. Opened in 1997, Taman Festival Park was designed to be like a Disney-like extravaganza. It was also home to the world's first inverted roller coaster and was a favorite spot among locals. The park was closed, however, after the attraction's $5 million laser equipment was struck by lightning on Friday the 13th of March in 1998. Due to an economic crisis and lacking tourist numbers in Asia, the park unfortunately had to close its doors. Today, the site is considered the most haunted place in all of Bali, and people in the area say that it draws evil spirits from all over the island like a beacon. And number 1 is Magic Kingdom. One of the most visited amusement parks on Earth also happens to be one that's literally polluted with the dead. Located in Bay Lake, Florida, Magic Kingdom was the first park to open in 1971 and remains open today. The park played a major role in Walt Disney's overall vision, but sadly, it was not completed before his death on December 15th, '66. Disney World and its grounds contain an incalculable amount of human remains. Despite having a rule against dumping loved ones' ashes, many visitors still do it to this day. Workers operating the Pirates of the Caribbean ride claim that they must say good morning to George, the ghost that haunts it. This is because if they don't remember to do so, the ride breaks down for that day. Number 1 is the Villisca Axe Murder House. The Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa got its name when it became the site of a brutal murder on June 9th, 1912. In the early morning hours, Josiah Moore and his wife Sarah, their 4 children, and 2 of their children's friends were all bludgeoned to death in their beds. Since those events, those who studied the house have noticed odd phenomena such as falling lamps, flying objects, and mysterious voices, causing many to believe that the Moore family are still still haunting it. The house has since become a tourist attraction. At $10 per adult and $5 per child, you too can walk through this house of horrors in hopes of spotting a real ghost. However, if you have $428 to spare, you and 5 brave souls can spend the night. Just don't follow the sound of giggling children into the cellar. Number 2 is the Sally House. From the outside, this simple white house in Atchison, Kansas looks innocent, but inside a different story is told. Built in the mid-1800s, the house has had many owners who have all experienced strange phenomena. There have been reports of flying objects, disembodied voices, and burnt finger marks on candles, just to name a few. Some owners have even reported ghosts or spirits of some kind leaving scratches and burn marks on them, quickly turning them into former tenants. Numerous paranormal investigators and psychics have investigated the house over the years, revealing EVP recordings from what sounds like a child. This led to the belief that a young girl is still haunting the house. That young girl is Sally, the daughter of one of the original owners who died in the house during an appendicitis surgery. Between the recordings and more that was revealed in a documentary in the 1990s, it's not surprising that the Sally house is considered the most haunted house in Kansas. Number 3 is Blickling Hall. Blickling Hall is an estate located in Norfolk, England, and also happens to be considered the most haunted home in the country. Blickling Hall is believed to have a famous permanent guest, Anne Boleyn, the former Queen of England. People have reported seeing an effigy of the former Queen every night on the anniversary of her execution. She was beheaded on May 19, 1536, after her husband, King Henry VIII, accused her of being unfaithful, when it was later discovered he just wanted to divorce her since she wasn't able to bear him a son. Today, you can visit the mansion and even spend the night and do some ghost hunting of your own. And who knows, the lady of the house might just grace you with her presence. Just watch your head. Number 4 is Akershus Castle. Built in the early 1300s, Akershus Castle in Oslo, Norway, was designed as a fortress to protect the city from invading armies and was also used as a prison. Over the centuries, many people were executed within its walls, especially over the course of World War I and World War II. Both staff and guests alike have claimed to have heard whispers in dark corridors, screams and rattling chains at night, as well as experienced strange, invisible forces pushing them. The castle is said to be haunted by the ghosts of a number of prisoners who were executed there, as well as the ghosts of guards so dedicated that they had never left their posts. There are even some non-human ghostly residents, including a black dog named Malcaniston, who is said to roam the grounds, as well as a horse that can be heard trotting near the front entrance. Legend has it that anyone who actually sees the horse will die before the end of the year. Visit at your own risk. Number 5 is the Amityville House. On Ocean Avenue in Amityville, Long Island, New York, is a house that's become a pop culture icon over the last 3 decades, but not for happy reasons. On November 13th, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald Defoe Jr. shot and killed his mother, his father, and his 4 younger siblings. He was arrested and claimed he murdered them because he heard voices plotting against him. 1 year later, the Lutz family moved in, but fled after only 28 days, leaving all of their possessions behind. They claimed that they had been terrorized by paranormal phenomena during their stay, including moving furniture, disembodied voices, and strange noises every night at exactly 3:15 a.m., which was the exact time that the murders had occurred. They tried having the house blessed multiple times, but without any luck. The Lutzes always maintained that they were telling the truth despite opposition from skeptics, and even took a lie detector test, which they all passed. The houses are still there today with a new address, but the same evil within. Number 6 is the Whaley House. In 1856, businessman Thomas Whaley built his family a home in San Diego, California, on land that had been a graveyard and a spot for public executions. His youngest daughter, Lillian, regularly claimed that she heard the sounds of boots throughout the house and believed it to be the ghost of Jim Robinson, who had been hanged on the property before the house was built. It seemed like the house was doomed from the start, as his other daughter, Violet, committed suicide there in 1885 after being humiliated when her husband turned out to be a con artist and left her. There have been countless sightings of spirits roaming the house since the family moved out, and due to reports of the paranormal, nobody chose to live there and it was instead converted into a museum. Thomas's ghost is regularly spotted at the top of the staircase, while his wife, Anna, can usually be found downstairs or in the garden. There have also been reports of the smell of perfume and cigar smoke seemingly coming from nowhere. Even TV legend Regis Philbin once claimed he saw the ghost of Anna Whaley there. He also claimed that he would never go back. Number 7 is the Borley Rectory. Built in 1862 in Sudbury, England, the Borley Rectory was home to several families over the years. All of them claimed to experience strange sounds, spirit sightings, moving objects, and messages written on the walls. The mansion was originally built for the Borley Church parish priest and his family, who were first to report hearing mysterious footsteps and to see the ghosts of nuns and headless horsemen. After years of some pretty intense hauntings, the house was left vacant until 1937, when Harry Price, a paranormal researcher who had been investigating the home, moved in for a whole year. During his time there, a spirit apparently warned him that the mansion would burn to the ground and the remains of a nun who had been murdered there would be found. Sure enough, in 1939, a new resident accidentally caused a fire, and in the cellar, the bones of a young woman was discovered. Whether or not they were actually the remains of a nun remains unknown, but once the house was destroyed and the bones given a proper burial, the reports of hauntings ended. Number 8 is Rose Hall. Located in Montego Bay, Jamaica, the ghostly tales that surround Rose Hall still frighten local children. Built in 1770, this former sugarcane plantation was the home of John and Annie Palmer. Legend has it that Annie was born in Haiti to English-Irish parents who died of typhoid fever when she was only 10 years old. She was then raised by a nanny who taught her voodoo and witchcraft. Shortly after, she murdered her husband John and took over Rose Hall, before killing another 3 husbands and countless slaves, many of which she was having affairs with. She eventually met a grisly end when she was murdered by one of her slaves in retaliation. As her reputation as a murder-happy voodoo lady spread, she became known as the White Witch. The spirits of many of her victims are said to still haunt the grounds, along with Annie, who is often called forth during seances. In 1965, the house turned into a museum, and to this day, guests and staff alike report hearing slammed doors and the screams of men throughout the halls. Number 9 is Chow Nei number 81. This 3-story house in Beijing, China has been left abandoned for years, and for good reason. The origins of the house are a bit of a mystery, but most believe hauntings began in the late 1940s. In 1949, a woman hung herself from the rafters, and has been reported to have haunted the house ever since. During the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, the government's Red Guards, a ruthless militant army, were stationed at the house, but they barely lasted a few days before leaving in fear. There have also been stories of people going inside to explore only to disappear, never to be seen again. The house has been vacant for years and even locals won't go inside, but there are still some brave folks who break in, hoping to get a glimpse of a ghost. You can do it too, if you're brave enough. And number 10 is the LaLaurie House. Built in New Orleans, Louisiana in the 1800s, this French Quarter mansion was home to one of America's worst serial killers, Madame Delphine LaLaurie. LaLaurie was a respected socialite, but behind closed doors, she was an evil and sadistic murderer. She was known for keeping slaves, which was common then, but she would also starve them, torture them, and also kill them. She even chased one of the slaves' children with a whip onto the roof, where the child fell to her death. In 1834, after a fire was started by one of the slaves, authorities found a number of slaves hidden, starving, and chained up. Over the years, the house has been bought and sold many times due to residents being scared of the bumps they hear in the night. There have even been reports of the sound of shuffling feet and moaning throughout the house, and just stepping inside can cause intense feelings of dread. The mansion has since been converted into a high-end apartment building, but recently one of LaLaurie's hidden graveyards was found under the floorboards of one of the apartments. Enjoy your time there. Number 10 is the Temple of Amida. Located on Mount Myozan in Japan, the Amidaji Temple was built to appease spirits of those that were killed during a war that saw the end of the Heike clan over 700 years ago. The most famous legend to come out of the temple was that of Hayoshi, a penniless blind man with a gift for playing music who used to live there. On multiple nights, he was led away by a samurai to the home of a lord. However, Hayoshi was not going to a house at all, but instead was actually playing music in front of the Heike Emperor's grave. Painting protective symbols all over the blind man, the temple's priest forgot to mark his ears, so when the samurai returned, they were the only parts of Hayoshi he could see. Hearing of this, Hayoshi panicked, tore them off, and never returned. To this very day, Hayoshi the earless, wondrous music can be still heard in the graveyard around the temple late at night. Number 9 is Notre Dame. Located in Paris, France, the Notre Dame Cathedral, officially completed in 1345, stands as possibly the finest example of French Gothic architecture. One of the legends surrounding the structure's completion says that in the 13th century, a blacksmith named Biscornet was given the task of decorating the cathedral's side doors. Overwhelmed with the thought of working on such a building, he made a deal with the devil, who completed the beautiful doors for him. But on the day that the doors were to be opened, they wouldn't budge until holy water was sprinkled on them. Another tale tells the story of a mysterious woman known only as MJ, who in October of 1882 jumped from one of the towers and died upon impact. It's said that to this day, upon walking through those doors, you can feel an eerie presence. And upon looking up at the gargoyles on the cathedral itself, MJ can still be seen walking among them. Number 8 is St. Andrew's on the Red. Officially opened in 1849, St. Andrew's on the Red is a church in Selkirk, Manitoba, Canada, named primarily due to the proximity to the Red River, and also due to the pair of glowing red eyes that many people have seen while inside. Considered one of Canada's most haunted places, St. Andrew's is home to multiple ghosts, including a man in black, as well as a woman in white who appear and disappear seemingly at random while walking about the graveyard outside. The gates of that cemetery have been seen and heard rattling strongly, even when there's no breeze, as well as a ghost car has been seen traveling around the church's parking area. Many who have witnessed the supernatural entities on the church's grounds reported having awful nightmares for several nights afterwards, most of which came with visions of the rattling gate. Number 7 is Egg Hill Church. Built in 1860, Egg Hill Church sits, all but abandoned, in Center County, Pennsylvania. Legend has it that a minister went mad and chained the front doors of the building shut with his entire congregation inside. He then proceeded to give communion, however, the wine was laced with poison. Everyone in that mass was killed, including the minister himself. Today, the church is said to be haunted, with some seeing the ghost of the priest himself, while others claim that they've seen some of the murdered patrons. Some claim that the urban legend is simply that, an urban legend. However, others say that the story only came after terrifying things began happening in and around Egg Hill. These include sightings of the ghostly minister, dark marks that appear and disappear on the church's walls, and the church bells ringing on their own. Number 6 is St. Michan's Church. Built in 1095 as a Catholic church for the remaining Vikings in the area, the St. Michan's Church in Dublin, Ireland, converted to being a Protestant church in 1686. But even with the change and rebuilding of much of it, the building never removed the vault in the basement. Several coffins still containing bodies have been found in the rooms under the chapel, many of which have never been identified. Incredibly, due to the limestone content in the soil, as well as the dry conditions inside the crypt, these bodies have mummified, becoming almost perfectly preserved. Among the bodies are those of powerful families, many of whom are apparently still trying to influence the living today. Visitors often report hearing the mummies whisper, often many voices at once, and some have even felt unseen hands grab them or even push them. Not exactly a place you want to go worship at. Number 5 is Basilica of Our Lady of Good Health. Located in Velankani, India, the Basilica of Our Lady of Good Health has been the site of numerous supernatural occurrences. Built in the early 1900s, the location of the church was selected due to sightings of a ghostly woman and her infant son, who many claim to be the Mother Mary and Jesus Christ himself. 2 of the first sightings were by young boys, the second of which was crippled until the spirits appeared to him. There are even tales of the ghostly pair saving European sailors from a storm, which suddenly ended when they appeared on the deck of a Portuguese ship. As of today, these unknown ghostly figures are often seen wandering the grounds. In addition, other unidentified ghosts have been sighted at the basilica, including a number of traders from international destinations who were worshippers at the church. No one at the church or anyone who visits it knows what these ghosts want or who they truly are, but they remain cautious. Number 4 is St. Louis Cathedral. Initially built in 1718, the Cathedral Basilica of St. Louis, King of France, better known locally as St. Louis Cathedral, is located in the French Quarter of New Orleans, Louisiana. It holds the title as the oldest cathedral in the United States. The building that stands today is the 4th iteration of the church after a hurricane and a fire took down the first 2, and a public outcry to expand took most of the 3rd. However, it's rumored that when the cathedral was expanded, it covered a small cemetery on the church grounds, and those interred there took offense. Notable ghosts include Pere Antoine, a Spanish Capuchin friar who's been spotted roaming the grounds or standing by the altar. Another is Pere Dagobert, a monk who walks the halls in sandals at night, chanting as he shuffles along. Number 3 is St. Thomas Church. Located in a small village called Mulgoa in New South Wales, Australia, St. Thomas Church was constructed in 1838 out of sandstone and cedar. With a number of updates over the years, the church still stands today, though for some it may not have the draw that it used to. It's rumored that 2 twin brothers were playing with fire on the church grounds when it suddenly got out of control and wound up killing them both. People have reported spotting or hearing both of the brothers, who were perceived as being angry with the visitors, especially if they happened to light a match or lighter. Additionally, people have reported strange activity while driving towards or around the church at night. It's said that a warning comes first when the headlights on your vehicle stop working, but soon after your car will stall, stranding you there with the angry ghost twins. Number 2 is Old Rock Church. Located 6.4 kilometers east of Cranfill's Gap in Bosque County, Texas, St. Olaf's Kirk, more commonly known as the Old Rock, was built between 1884 and 1886. The building was closed in 1917 when another Lutheran church was built nearby. However, that doesn't mean that the pews are empty. According to multiple witness reports, a large group of the dead still regularly attend, most often on Sundays. Many claim to have seen strange lights swirling about both inside the chapel and in the cemetery beside it. Strange voices can be heard reciting passages from both the Bible and hymn books, as well as some translucent figures walking among the seats. But none of that holds a candle to the choir. A few visitors have claimed that they heard the sound of a ghostly choir singing hymns coming from inside the church at night. And number 1 is St. Nicholas Church. Located in Pluckley, England, allegedly the most haunted church in the country, St. Nicholas Church certainly adds its fair share of ghost stories to the nation. A number of paranormal experts have investigated this building, specifically looking for two ghostly women who haunt it. Outside, walking the grounds, you may spot the Red Lady, a middle-aged woman in red clothing that is buried in a lead box somewhere on the premises. She roams the area surrounding the church, crying as she searches in vain for her baby, who, as the story goes, was stillborn prior to her death. Inside the church is the White Lady, a woman who's been seen both as a ghostly woman in flowing white garments and as a disfigured result of a house fire that she apparently lost her life to in 1952. Beware if you visit this area, because neither seem to enjoy visitors. Busby's Stoop Chair. Imagine a chair stained with the darkness of a condemned man's final moments. This is Busby's Stoop Chair, once belonging to the 18th century killer Thomas Busby. Before his execution, Busby cursed the chair, proclaiming that death would befall anyone who dared to sit upon it. And the legend holds, countless individuals have met gruesome fates shortly after ignoring this chilling warning. The chair, now safely tucked away, remains a stark reminder of the potent power of a death curse. The haunted wedding dress. A symbol of love, hope, and new beginnings, twisted into a spectral shroud. This ethereal garment is said to be haunted by the spirit of a young woman who tragically perished before her wedding day. Witnesses claim the dress moves on its own, swaying gently as if an invisible bride were twirling. Cold drafts emanate from it, and some report hearing faint sobs, the echoes of a broken heart forever trapped within a delicate fabric. James Dean's Porsche 550 Spider, the Little Bastard. Speed, glamour, and death. These are the elements intertwined with James Dean's infamous Porsche 550 Spider, nicknamed Little Bastard. The car, a symbol of rebellion and youthful exuberance, became a harbinger of doom. Dean's fatal crash was just the beginning. The car's wreckage continued to inflict tragedy, with subsequent owners and those who handled its parts suffering a series of horrific accidents and even deaths. Little Bastard became a chilling testament to the devastating power of a cursed object, a metal embodiment of ill fortune. The unlucky mummy. From the sands of ancient Egypt comes a tale of ancient wrath. This Egyptian artifact, housed in a British museum, is shrouded in a terrifying legend. Those who came into contact with the mummy or its sarcophagus suffered an inexplicable chain of misfortunes, from illness and injuries to financial ruin and untimely deaths. The whispers of a pharaoh's curse, a vengeful spirit guarding its eternal slumber, continue to resonate around this chilling relic. The Bassano Vase. Beauty can conceal unimaginable terror. The Bassano vase, a stunning 15th century Italian artifact, is said to carry a deadly curse. Legend has it that the vase bears a chilling inscription, "Despise me not." Those who have owned this exquisite object have met with swift, tragic ends, leaving behind a trail of fear and unanswered questions. The vase, now hidden away, serves as a chilling reminder that some objects are best left undisturbed, their dark histories forever sealed within their elegant forms. Number 1 is the DeBook box. In 2001, a man named Kevin Mannis purchased a wine cabinet at an estate sale and immediately started having terrible nightmares, as did the people around him. He decided to give away the cabinet to his mother, who had a stroke the very same day she received it. Each owner since then has reported horrible events upon coming into possession of the cabinet. Its last owner, Jason Haxon, developed a strange skin disease among other medical conditions. The origins of the box were traced back to a Holocaust survivor and is believed to be possessed by a DeBook, an evil spirit in Jewish mythology. Upon learning this, Haxon, with the help of local rabbis, decided to hide the box from the rest of the world so that it can't do any more damage. But its legend lives on, and in fact was the inspiration for the 2012 movie The Possession. Well, it's always good to know that there's haunted wine cabinets out there. Think about that next time you crack open a bottle. Number 2 is Annabelle the doll. Annabelle the doll was originally discovered discovered in an antique shop in 1970. After being purchased as a gift from a mother to her daughter Donna, strange happenings began occurring. Upon receiving it and bringing it home, she noticed that over time the doll would appear in other rooms that she did not put it. In addition, little notes would begin appearing around her apartment randomly, and fresh droplets of blood would appear on the doll's dress. As the unexplained phenomena increased, the girl finally contacted renowned psychic investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who determined that the doll was possessed by a demon. The doll was ultimately given to the Warrens, who put it in a glass cabinet where it remains to this day in their occult museum in Connecticut. The sign on the glass reads, "Warning, positively do not open," as if people need a warning not to touch a psychotic demon doll. Number 3 is the Hands Resist Him painting. Painted by artist Bill Stoneham, the Hands Resist Him is considered one of the world's most haunted pieces of art. Each owner has passed on a similar warning to the next potential buyer, which is that come nightfall, the figures within the painting either move or disappear entirely. Many people that have simply viewed the painting have complained about immediately feeling sick or weak. According to the artist, the doorway represents a threshold between this world and, well, another. The most striking coincidence documented is that the owner of the first gallery to ever show the painting and the art critic that reviewed it both died within 1 year of first seeing it. And I don't know if looking at copies of the painting has the same effect or not, but if it does, oops, sorry. Number 4 is the Crying Boy painting. The Crying Boy painting was created by Italian artist Giovanni Bragolin in the 1950s and quickly became famous. Or should I say infamous. Over the years, the painting became very popular and thus mass-produced and was hung in many homes across Britain. However, it soon became widely reported that many of these homes began mysteriously catching fire, with many of them burning to the ground. But as unsettling as that is, the most disturbing thing is that in many of these homes, the painting of the Crying Boy was discovered, and not only that, but they were all untouched by the raging flames. Now, some attribute these fires to pure coincidence, but the undamaged paintings have yet to be explained. I think the real mystery here is why so many people want a picture of a crying boy in their homes. Some of y'all are sick in the head. Number 5 is Busby's stoop chair. This notorious chair once belonged to convicted murderer Thomas Busby. Before he was hanged for his crimes, his final request was to have a meal at his favorite local pub. However, upon finishing his meal, he stood and proclaimed, "May sudden death come to anyone who dares sit in my chair." Since then, a supposed 63 people who have sat in the chair met their untimely deaths, sometimes mere moments after sitting in it. When the number of deaths became too coincidental, the pub owner donated the chair to the Thirsk Museum in the UK in 1972. The chair is still there today, where it's hung 1.5 meters off of the ground to prevent any further coincidences. Number 6 is Anna Baker's wedding dress. In the mid-1800s, a young girl named Anna Baker, who came from a wealthy family, fell in love with a low-class ironworker. They planned a wedding and she even bought a dress, but when her father discovered the relationship, he forbid the wedding. From that point on, she refused to marry anybody else and spent the rest of her life alone, bitter and angry until her death in 1914. That wedding dress has since been put on display in her old bedroom at the old Baker Mansion. It's often observed moving by itself, which could be attributed to a draft or something, except for the fact that it's in an airtight glass case. Some believe that it's Anna's spirit inhabiting the dress, dancing her wedding dance that she never got to have while she was living. Clearly not a dress that you'd want to donate to Goodwill, I assure you. Number 7 is the Bassano vase. The Bassano vase was made from carved silver in the 15th century by an Italian maiden on her wedding night. That very same night, she was found murdered clutching the vase. After her death, the vase was passed on from family member to family member, with each dying an untimely death until eventually the vase was hidden away. Unfortunately, in 1988, the vase was discovered again with a note that read, "Beware, this vase brings death." The chain of deaths continued, with each new owner claiming more and more lives. It was even offered to multiple museums, each refusing to take it because of the perceived curse on it. Where it remains now is unclear, but it's believed to be buried in a lead coffin somewhere that is not accessible, at least to the living. Number 8 is the Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond is the most famous and famously cursed diamond in the world. This 45.5 carat diamond was formed in the earth 1.1 billion years ago, and since its discovery has been owned by several notable people, including a few kings. As it's passed from owner to owner, country to country, the diamond has been known to be plagued with a curse that causes great misfortune to anyone who possesses it. Those who have owned it have suffered disgrace, divorce, suicide, imprisonment, torture, and financial ruin. It currently resides in the Smithsonian Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C., where it's observable by the public. The diamond is never loaned out for any reason, given its value of almost $250 million, and also so that it can never harm another living person. Number 9 are the Maori warrior masks. The Maori warriors of New Zealand lived long ago and used to carve out masks and statues before heading into battle. According to the Maori belief system, any man who died in battle would leave his soul behind in one of the masks. Oddly, although the masks seemed to pose no threat to men, it was found that over time women that were pregnant that came close to the masks suffered complications or other unfortunate events. Several exist in a museum in New Zealand today, but are displayed with a warning that women that are expecting should not come close to the masks for their own safety and the safety of their child. It was never explained why the perceived curse only seems to affect pregnant women, but it's best not to think of this as simply superstition because it's simply not worth the risk. And number 10 is the Myrtles Plantation Mirror. We've talked about the Myrtles Plantation before as one of the most haunted places in the world, but perhaps the most haunted item on the premises is a mirror that was added to the home in 1980. Legend claims that the mirror contains the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her children who were poisoned to death on the premises. Guests of the plantation have reported seeing figures lurking in the mirror and child-sized handprints on the glass. But mirrors have always been the subject of the supernatural and have been known to harbor evil spirits. So feel free to remember that next time you walk by one in the middle of the night. Number 10 is St. Peter's Seminary. Built in 1966, St. Peter's Seminary in Cardross, Scotland, was to be a seat of learning for the priesthood. Slowly but surely, however, it gained a demonic reputation. After shutting down as a seminary, the building was repurposed as a drug rehabilitation center. By the end of the 1980s, it was completely abandoned. Since then, fire, vandalism, and the elements have eaten away at the building, and yet still it stands. The Catholic Church still pays to ensure the building and has described it as an albatross around the church's neck. Ghostly sightings such as phantom priests, spectral screams, and spontaneous fires have all been recorded there by those brave enough to sneak into this place. All attempts to renovate it have failed, and some believe this is due to the ghostly figures which stalk its abandoned rooms and halls. Number 9 is the Sheriff's House. The Cater House in Buffalo, New York was one of the most haunted houses in America. It was so haunted, in fact, that it was boarded up, left to rot, and eventually demolished in 2013 in order to remove the source of spiritual infestation once and for all. Like many such places, the house had a checkered history of both accidents and tragedies, but it was only once it became vacant due to foreclosure in 1968 that the malevolent spirits really took over. Many have seen the apparition of Sheriff Donald Caters, who was the house's last resident. It was said that the muffled, angry voice of the sheriff could be heard inside the dilapidated structure. Trespassers were urged not to enter the house due to its fragile state, but some believe this was a cover story and that the true threat came from a vengeful spirit. Number 8 is 300 Kim Ma. This bizarre house in Vietnam is both forbidden and haunted. Originally constructed to be the Bulgarian embassy, it was abandoned for an unknown reason. Unlike many of the surrounding homes, the building is relatively new, but no less feared than a creaking old mansion. Most in the neighborhood refused to set foot in the building, and despite efforts as recent as 2014, no one was willing to renovate it and move in. Experts in Vietnam have concluded that the land upon which it lies is bad, and this cursed land has brought about the terrifying apparitions as well as noises that occur there. Most frightening of all are the descriptions of floating white entities with glowing eyes which have attacked those brave enough to enter the abandoned building. 300 Kim Ma is now owned by the government and is still off limits. Number 7 is Chow Nee number 81. This house in Beijing is one of the most famous haunted houses in China. Because of incomplete historical records, no one is certain who built the house. One theory is that it was completed in 1910 and was owned by a man who fled the country, leaving his wife or mistress behind. This ties into the terrifying ghost which is often encountered there. During the 1960s, communist guards moved in but soon fled. Stories circulated that they were chased from the residence by an unspeakably grotesque spirit. Lying empty for so many years, locals feared the house, citing blood-curdling screams which emanated from it, especially during thunderstorms. In just the last year, attempts have been made to renovate the house and restore it, but for some, this will only enrage the spirits who walk there even more. Number 6 is Manuel Varela House. Known as the Devil House, this abandoned mansion in Colombia has a macabre history. The mansion was owned by a man named Manuel Varela. He was a physician, but instead of healing people, it was rumored that he carried out yearly sacrifices and made a pact with the devil. Varela arrived in the area in 1908 from abroad and quickly accumulated wealth. Many believed at the time that he was sacrificing his loved ones who disappeared mysteriously, and by doing so was rewarded in turn with further fortunes. Those who live nearby today say that the abandoned house and its grounds are a hive of paranormal activity, and few dare go there at night. Some go as far as to say that a shadowy figure has been seen walking through the grounds and is none other than the devil himself. Number 5 is Bern's Ghost House. In the city of Bern, Sweden, there is a medieval house which has a notorious reputation as one that you would not want to sleep in. For much of its most recent life, it has remained uninhabited, abandoned to silence itself. There have been several ghostly encounters at number 54 Jungkerngasse. One of the most compelling involves repeated eyewitnesses who have seen the body of a headless woman staring at one of the windows as they walked past. Many have seen this ghost most often just after midnight. Those who have seen her say that her appearance is accompanied by a horrid cackling laugh. Despite being in a desirable part of the town, the house continues to scare away any brave guest and has remained on the market for some time. Number 4 is the most haunted house in Korea. This old 2-story building in South Korea is feared by many for more than just its loneliness, and when tourists ask to see it, many tell them not to go for fear of disturbing evil spirits which haunt it. The building can be found north of Pohang Town and is often known as Yeongdeokye Ghost House. No one knows why it's abandoned, as in its heyday during the 1980s, it would have been an attractive house with beautiful countryside around it. Several paranormal groups and television crews have investigated the house, picking up the sounds of strange disembodied voices, as well as seeing apparitions of soldiers on the property. It has recently been revealed that the house sits on top of a mass grave, which is now seen as the cause of the activity. Number 3 is Coolbawn House. This 19th century mansion in Ireland has developed a fearsome reputation as a paranormal hotspot. Built between 1840 and 1855, the house was once a lavish spectacle for its owner, Francis Bruin, who built it for his bride-to-be. The family had no children, and with its owner spending most of his time in London, the house and its sprawling grounds were overseen by a fearsome landlord. As the Bruin family withered away, by 1911, it was occupied by 4 servants and then burned to the ground by the IRA in 1923. Several apparitions haunt the ruins, but it is the ghost of a servant girl which has caused most distress to those trying to visit it. She was struck by lightning while standing next to a window. Her outline burned into the glass. Many believe her anguished spirit brought about the eventual destruction of the house. Number 2 is the Old Stone House. Known as the Herrera House, the old stone house can be found in Sayong in the Philippines. Built in 1927, the house has a creepy colonial appearance with lifeless stone statues staring blankly at visitors. It's been abandoned for some time, and with good reason. The house was used by Japanese soldiers during the occupation there, and it's said many atrocities were committed within the house. Those atrocities have left an imprint, with visitors hearing the shackled footsteps of spectral prisoners of war shuffling across the stone floors. The rooms inside have been stripped of its past regal appearance, but several other spirits continue to haunt the emptiness. This includes an elderly couple, a headless apparition, and another lady whose children can be seen but who remains invisible to any adult. And number 1 is Al Jazeera Al Hamra. This is more than just one haunted house. It's actually an entire village, which once housed nearly 3,000 people. Local competing groups laid claim to the village throughout the early 20th century, resulting in an agreement for most of the people living there to leave. However, some believe that there's more to it than that. Those who still live in the region believe that the empty, abandoned houses attracted something from the wilderness. They believe the houses are now haunted by powerful demonic entities known as jinn. Brave souls who visit the derelict village have seen creeping demonic figures between the crumbling buildings. Visitors are encouraged to leave the houses alone at night, but several people have ignored this warning and ran afoul of the jinn, who are said to feast on the flesh of the living. Number 1 is the Eastern State Penitentiary. Located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the United States, this former prison housed some of the most deranged criminals in the country. Built in 1829, it was the first prison of its kind to introduce solitary confinement, causing many of those confined to go insane due to the fact that they were forced to eat, live, and exercise completely alone. Because this prison was overly harsh, it was abandoned in 1971. Since then, paranormal activity has reportedly increased, with reports of shadowy figures roaming the halls, ghostly faces being witnessed in cell block 4, and even evil cackling being heard at night. The city of brotherly love is also, apparently, the city of creepy haunted prisons. Who knew? Number 2 is the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Located in Kentucky in the United States, this building served as a tuberculosis hospital in the mid-20th century at a time when the disease was at its worst. It's believed that as many as 63,000 patients died within its walls, many of which were mistreated and had experimental procedures conducted on them. The building has been featured on shows such as Ghost Adventurers and Ghost Hunters. The findings of the shows, as well as those who visit the property, all say the same thing: appearances of full-bodied apparitions, screams coming from empty rooms, and a continuing reappearance by a small boy known only as Tim. Tim alone is a good enough reason for me to stay the hell away from this place. I mean, I hate kids in horror movies, so forget about real life. Damn. Number 3 is the Monte Cristo Homestead. Located in Junee, New South Wales, Australia, this building is regarded as the most haunted location in the country. Since it was built in 1885, several tragic events have occurred there, including the death of a young child who was dropped down the stairs, a maid who fell to her death from the balcony, and a young boy who burned to death on the property. There were also murders that occurred there, as well as a particularly disturbing story about a mentally ill man named Harold that was the son of a caretaker that was chained up in the building for 40 years, where he eventually died. Tickets for the ghost tour are $12 for adults and only $6 for children. Right, because that's a great place to take your kids. See that over there, Johnny? That's where a boy about your age burned alive. Number 4 is the Castle of Good Hope. Located in Cape Town, South Africa, this building was erected in the 17th century and is the country's oldest colonial building. Once an establishment for soldiers, it has since become a paranormal playground. Apparitions of men jumping to their deaths from the side of the castle is a regular occurrence, as are sightings of the lady in gray who has been seen running through the castle holding her face, crying hysterically. There was even once a soldier who was found hanging from the bell rope of the tower, overlooking overlooking the castle entrance, and every once in a while the bell will be heard ringing itself. Wow, that's creepy. Excuse me while I never go to the Castle of Hope. Number 5 is the Ancient Ram Inn. Located in Gloucestershire, England, this inn is believed to be the most haunted house in the entire British Isles, while others believe it to be the most haunted house in the world. Built in 1145 on a pagan burial ground, child sacrifices, devil worship, and other demonic events have all occurred here. Those who have stayed there have been known to flee in the middle of the night after seeing full-bodied apparitions in their rooms, while others report being touched or even pulled by these same forces. If that wasn't disturbing enough, the current owner found 2 child skeletons as well as broken daggers underneath the staircase. A night here will cost you anywhere between 25 and 30 pounds. Sweet dreams! Number 6 is Fort George. Located at the summit of Citadel Hill in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, this star-shaped fort is known as Canada's most haunted historic site. Originally constructed in 1749, this property has been the site of several wars. Ghosts of soldiers are regularly seen walking the grounds, as well as various men in red cloaks, and a little girl who is said to occasionally follow groups taking the ghost tour. Unexplained bangs, knocks, mist, as well as disembodied voices are all commonplace here. The worst reports are of people becoming suddenly nauseous or being pushed by an unseen force. Doesn't a ghost tour here sound like fun? Bring the whole family! You might lose a member or two, but hey, bring them anyways. Number 7 is Chateau de Brizec. Located in Maine-et-Loire, France, it's the tallest castle in the country. Originally built in 1502 by Charles II, Duke of Brizec, both inside and out exude old world charm, however something more sinister lurks within its walls. A double murder that occurred in the 15th century has resulted in the emergence of the Green Lady, who roams the halls frightening guests with her nightly moans. The terrifying thing about the woman in the green dress is her face, which is said to have gaping holes where her eyes and nose should be, resembling a walking corpse. Kinda like this. There's a nightmare for you. Number 8 is the Haunted Vicarage. Located in the small village of Borgvanet in northern Sweden, this building is the most haunted house in all of the country. Built in 1876, paranormal encounters have been happening here for over 100 years. Sudden appearances of spirits are commonplace here. On one such occasion, a woman staying in a guest room was suddenly awoken by what she perceived to be a ghost of a 3-year-old sitting on her bed staring at her. In another instance, in 1945, a man was suddenly thrown out of his chair by an invisible force. The building is currently a restaurant as well as a guest house, and if you are able to stay the whole night, you get a certificate to prove it. Wow, that's quite the selling feature. Hey, stay at our place, and if you're able to survive the night, you get a certificate. Book now! Number 9 is Poveglia Island. Located in Venice, Italy, is the small island of Poveglia. This island was inhabited since the year 421 until it was abandoned in the 14th century. This island eventually became a quarantine colony when the bubonic plague struck Europe, where many Venetians were sent to die, with their dead, infected bodies being burned on giant pyres. It was then used as a mental asylum in the 1800s, where ill treatment and unethical procedures occurred on the patients kept there. Today, the entire island remains abandoned as locals will not step foot on it for fear of being cursed or possessed by the ghosts of the patients that still roam it. Even fishermen refuse to fish in the area for fear of dragging up human remains. So if you visit Italy, just stick to espresso and pasta. Definitely don't visit this island.
Or you could be possessed.
And ain't nobody got time for that. And number 10, the Myrtles Plantation. Located in St. Francisville, Louisiana in the United States, this house is said to be haunted by several restless ghosts. Believed by many to be one of the most haunted homes in the world, several horrific events have occurred here. Slaves were hung from the property's trees, 2 children were killed on the premises, and one of the building's owners was shot and killed on the porch, the ghosts of which are seen floating around the property still to this day. Believe it or not, it has since become a bed and breakfast where occupants routinely report scary and bizarre events. Many people have reported being held down and poked all night by a supernatural force, which really sucks if you're the ghost because that sounds like a terrible way to spend the afterlife. Ooh, yep, I'm poking you. Scary stuff. This is how I have to spend eternity.